So we're getting started right now. We're also going live on Facebook as well. We also have this Facebook community called Real Estate, Seattle Real Estate Community, where I post all the great content and everything that I post there are just relevant. I don't spam anything like that. So a lot of people actually don't know much about the warehouse investing because people are usually specifically into like residential and people are aware of like apartment complex, multi-family, single family, condos, things of that sort. So I wanted to make you guys think out of the box and kind of learn more about the warehouse investing. Probably won't be able to cover every single thing about the warehouse. I mean, I'm just going to cover some basics. And if you're planning on investing in a warehouse or anything like that, you can reach out to me later on and provide you more details because there's only limited information I can provide. Because if you're trying to learn everything about the warehouse, it's going to take hours and hours to learn because there are a lot of details required. So a little bit about me, why I became a realtor and why I qualified to do this presentation. Started real estate about 7 years ago, flipping. I spent a lot of money in education. Also, I made a lot of money and lost a lot of money in investing in real estate. Most of the mistakes that I made was due to the bad realtors that I was working with. Most of the realtors were not knowledgeable about the disclosures. They did not know how to negotiate price and terms. And the way I started real estate was working as an assistant to an investor who would make me work very hard. So I had a boss, which most of the real estate agents and new investors don't have a boss. So they just work very slowly. Since I had a boss, he made me work like 50 to 60 hours a week. And he would make me do everything like investing, going there, negotiating the price, hiring tenants, firing tenants, evictions, sometimes being a negotiator, acting as an agent, sometimes acting as a landlord, sometimes even negotiating like warehouses. It would make me do everything. So most realtors I was working with not proactive, would not make quick offers, were unable to help me win bids. They lacked patience to show me multiple properties when I wanted to make a right decision. The realtors that I was working with were inexperienced to offer effective guidance on issues that a home have. Like one time I bought a property and the real estate agent didn't tell me it has major foundation issues, which he already knew about it because he just wanted to sell the property and make his commission. So I ended up buying the property. I lost like almost 5 months and about a $50,000 just fixing that. Most real estate agents lack passion. They didn't explain me the home buying process. So I decided to become a realtor for my own self. But then later on, there were other people who needed help. So I started helping people in avoiding mistakes that I made. So let me first clear this concept of what and why you should actually invest in warehouse. The reason is the traditional businesses, which are called brick and mortar business, which are physical stores. Like for an example, Mattress Firm, right? Mattress Firm, let's say, have about 50 stores in each state. And then there are, let's say, 50 states. So 50 times 50, you're looking at about 2,500 stores. That's a lot. And then let's say each of those stores have about like 10 employees, then about 25,000 employees. That's like I'm talking about in a very small number. They probably have more than that because each state have a bunch of cities, right? But the new investors, the young millennials, the young entrepreneurs, business owners who are in the 20s and 30s are very creative. What they're doing is that they're buying companies like Mattress Firm. They're shutting down all the stores across all the country, and then they're putting a warehouse. They'll buy like 3 warehouses. One, they'll buy a warehouse in East Coast, one warehouse in the West Coast, and one in the Midwest. And then they would put all their inventory. They will put Facebook ad, Instagram ads, and digital marketing. And everybody, all the people who are on Facebook, YouTube, Google, Instagram, will actually buy those from those links. They will also sell on other places like Amazon and Walmart, which are Shopify, which are the third-party business websites which allow you to sell. But in order for these companies to sell their inventory, they need to have a warehouse. And that's what's happening right now, is the demand for warehouse is increasing significantly because all the companies that are new starting up, they don't have the budget to actually buy the warehouse because they have spent hundreds and thousands of dollars in buying the product, developing the product, paying for digital marketing and all that. So they are renting warehouses from business owners on a terms. And that's when there is an increased need of warehouses. So this is something that you should keep in mind when you're actually trying to buy. However, every time you are making a big investment, there is a risk. Let's say you are going to buy stocks worth of $100. The risk is less. But if you're buying a stock of $100,000, and there is a 25% dip, you're gonna lose like $25,000. But if a 25% increase, you're gonna gain 25,000. As compared to the $100, you're only gonna lose $25 or gain $25. That's how it is. The higher investment you go, the bigger risk you have. But as compared to like residential real estate, there are higher risk in commercial, but there is also a higher reward. So you might be renting a warehouse to a business, and that business that you are renting to might go bankrupt and might not be able to pay you the rent and would have to end the lease. Well, you can go back to them and you can sue them, but what if they don't have any money? You can't do much about it, right? So another thing that can be a problem is, let's say you had a tenant, but they left in, let's say 2 or 3 or 5 years, but then you're trying to hire another tenant. It's not that easy to put the listing on Craigslist and you have some tenant, like you are renting a home or a condo. It's gonna take longer to actually find a tenant for your lease. It could take average anywhere between 3 months to 1 year to actually find a tenant. There's also higher cost of upgrading the warehouse. Like for an example, if you buy like a single family home, it's probably a little bit easier that you can paint and do some stuff. But warehouses are huge. There are tens and thousands of square feet. And you're trying to do small little things there, it's gonna cost you a lot. There could also be environmental hazard. Like for an example, you gave your warehouse, let's say, to a company that manufactures oil, or their manufactures some sort of chemicals, or they're using some substances that they're dumping into the ground, or those warehouse that you have might also be an issue where you're actually having issues with the environment around it. So you might get fined if someone finds out, the city finds out that you're actually having a tenant that's creating environmental problems for the warehouse. Another thing is when you are having a warehouse, some of the other risks that could be functional obsolescence. So you had a warehouse for which the office space is significantly smaller, and it's very difficult, let's say, to open up the office space. Then you would have to and there is a company that want to rent your warehouse, but they want a bigger office space, but you won't be able to expand it because the office is too small. So that could be a functional obsolescence, or the warehouse ceiling could be not that big. So maybe a company that is renting your warehouse wanted to stack up multiple a big height, or multiple pallets of their stock or whatever inventory they have, and they might not be able to stack one on top of each other because of the ceiling height. So those are some of the risks you might have to consider in order for you to invest in a warehouse and do your research on that. Another thing is benefits. In residential real estate, like for an example, if you're renting a single family home or a condo or an apartment, you have to take care of the maintenance, which includes like cutting the grass, taking care of the exterior of the building, or if there is a hail damage or anything that happens to the building, you are responsible for it. However, in the warehouse, the tenant is supposed to take care of all the maintenance. Like in some cities and states, there is a snow that falls like on random times, and cleaning up a snow on a warehouse parking lot could be very, very expensive. And something like that, the owner will take care of it. Lease is long term. In commercial, which is anywhere could be 5 to 15 years. But in the residential, you have lease that goes anywhere between 30 days to 1 year or 6 months, and then you have to find another tenant. The rents are higher for commercial as compared to the residential because your investment is also higher, and there is less competition as compared to residential. So for an example, you're trying to buy a single family home or a multi-family, duplex, triplex, fourplex. You hire a realtor, there's a property on the market, there are probably 500 people looking at it. If that property is in a decent area, they might get crazy amounts of offers, and you might not have enough leverage to negotiate that property because there is so much competition. If you try to negotiate, they're going to say, well, we have already people paying us what we're asking and even more than that, so we're not going to lower our price, and we're not going to talk to you because we don't have time to talk to you, as we have a bunch of buyers lined up to buy our property. But as compared to commercial industrial warehouses, there are not that many buyers who are buying it. I mean, tell me how many of your friends are looking to buy an industrial warehouse? I mean, come on, like you have friends, family, everybody, somebody is trying to invest in some sort of real estate that is residential. Somebody's trying to buy a condo, somebody's trying to buy a single family home, somebody's trying to buy a duplex or triplex, fourplex, but not that many people are looking to buy a warehouse. So you have less competition, so you have better leverage to negotiate and take your time to do your due diligence inspection before you make an offer. There are two types of strategy for warehouse. One strategy is a buy and hold strategy. We actually buy the warehouse and you hold it. That means you don't sell it. You can either buy a warehouse with a tenant or without a tenant. If you buy a warehouse without a tenant, you will get the warehouse for a cheaper price because the warehouse value is based on the income that it's generating. So when there is no income, that doesn't mean that the warehouse value is zero. However, they will calculate potential income if you had a tenant, or they will calculate the income based on the previous tenants they had. And based on that, they will sell you the warehouse, but they will sell you a little less than what a warehouse with a tenant is, because you would have to hire a realtor, spend some money and time in finding a tenant. So if you're smart, you wanted to take some risk, then you can buy a warehouse without a tenant and then put a tenant in there to increase the value of the warehouse. If you need a tenant, you can hire a realtor. It takes, I'd say, average anywhere between 3 months to 1 year to find a tenant, hire an attorney to draft a lease agreement, and then you can rent a warehouse and cash flow it every single month. Um, then let's say the flip strategy, okay? The flip strategy, what you would do is, this is a little bit riskier, so, but there is a higher reward. You buy a vacant warehouse, which doesn't have any tenant or has been abandoned for a long time. Sometimes there are owners who buy these warehouses and the tenant is gone and they don't have time, money, energy to spend and find the right tenant or upgrade the warehouse. You know, some people have warehouses in Chicago and they're living in like New York and they're busy in their life and they don't have time to do all these upgrades and everything. So they will be willing to sell you this warehouse for a lot less than the market value. So you can buy this vacant warehouse, make repairs, fill in a tenant, raise the value of the place, and then sell it for profit. Something like that, you can do it as well. And if you don't want to do buy and hold, and if you also don't want to do flip strategy, you can partner up with a warehouse investor who does the flip, and then you can lend your money to them. Let's say you have like $500,000 or $1 million, and you want to increase the money by investing and without you having to take the risk. You can give that 500,000 to an investor, but you have to make sure you trust him, and you have legal contracts in place and everything, and make sure you have an attorney, because you just give your money to somebody without having all these contracts and they can take your money and run away. So they can do all this flip work and sell the property and share profits with you. Profits can be anywhere between $100 to $500,000. It could be even more, or it could be less. And let's say on a $1 million investment, the investor was able to make about a $400,000 profit. Then without you doing anything, you can take 50% of it. That would be about $200,000. So it's up to you. When you have money, you have power, then you can do a bunch of things. And now you might be saying, well, this is all nice and pretty. I wanted to learn how to find a warehouse. So you can hire a realtor and tell him your requirements, where you're looking to buy a warehouse and how big you're looking to buy, what should be the size of it, and who you're planning on renting. You can say you're planning on renting to individuals who sell physical products on e-commerce websites like Amazon, Walmart, Shopify, or their own personal websites. So based on that, he's going to try to find you a warehouse that somebody's selling. You can also tell him, like, if you want to buy a warehouse with a tenant in place or without a tenant. Or sometimes people also put warehouses on Craigslist, but it's rare. But you'll find warehouses on LoopNet all the time. Like I did the search, just show you a warehouse. You just type the city and the state we're looking to buy, and then all the listings in the LoopNet will pop up. Then you can contact the owner or the agent who is representing that warehouse or representing that client, and you can get some information, put together an appointment, go and visit. But just make sure that you have your proof of funds and everything ready. Let's say, for an example, a real estate agent had to spend like 5 hours driving to the warehouse, showing you everything and all of that. He might ask like, hey, you know what? Do you have proof of funds? Do you have money? What are you trying to do with the warehouse? So you have to be a little bit clear and be confident of how much money you have and what's your budget. Because if you're just trying to just call people and maybe ask them to show the warehouse, they might not take you very seriously, because commercial real estate agents are very proactive and are very conservative about their time. So they wanted to invest their time with the buyers who are actually serious and looking to make a move. I also wanted to show that we have Facebook community that is growing. We also have a YouTube channel which is called Buying and Selling with Abdul Rahman. Facebook community name is Seattle Real Estate Community, where I don't put any advertisement. I only put knowledge sharing sessions. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I did this presentation in the morning because I had some work in the afternoon, but if you have missed a portion or all the presentation, don't worry about it. I will actually be recording it and posting back on the group. Looks like there are no questions, so I'll end the call.